Hi, my name is Jamie Boyles. I am a missionary at the Springs. When Monima asked me to tell my ghost story, I just assumed she wanted to hear what took me to Rwanda. So I'm a missionary serving in Rwanda for the last 8 years. But my story started way before that. When I was in high school, my youth minister was telling us about a movie that had just come out called Schindler's List. There was a man on there, Oskar Schindler, who had saved many, many Jews. He was telling us about the end of the movie when Oskar was now a war criminal because he had taken all these Jews and put them into factories, some that were fake, but he was buying the Jews, and so he was actually found guilty of this crime. So at the end, Oscar's standing there with all these Jews and that he's saved. He's personally saved. And he starts looking down at first his pin on his lapel that was the swastika, the Nazi pin. And he said, 2 more people. I could have saved 2 more people. He looks at his card and he says, 20 people. I could have saved 20 more people. My youth minister was making the point of 1 more. Do we want to be at the end of our life and have regrets of, I should have saved 1 more person. I should have reached out or loved on 1 more person. So the seed was planted in my mind, 1 more. I was probably 13, 14 years old. So it seemed that I always kind of took jobs and was involved in ministries that I really wanted to get hands-on with people. When I started coming to Quell Springs back in 2008, I started coming and I started seeing a lot of authentic Christians, people who were really opening up to what God wanted to do with their lives. And I wanted to be a part of it. It was Mission Sunday. There was a video being played, and the video said, missions is not about reaching out to those who are already in the pews, but reaching out to the gates of hell. I knew at that moment I felt the Spirit of God within me say, go to Rwanda. Now, I am probably one of the most unlikeliest of people, as I didn't even have a passport or had never been out of the U.S. But I thought, okay, God, we're on this adventure together. I'd come out of this super, super hard season and was looking for ways of how I was going to be surrendering my life to God. So I went to Rwanda in 2009 on a short-term trip, returned in 2010, and the team at the time asked me to move out there. So in 2011, I moved out there. So 8 years ago, I moved out to Rwanda saying, yes, what does this look like? And started a young women's program, helping women seek their identity in God, who God made them to be, help them find work, and start micro businesses. We were in the middle of a training, and our minister at the time, Moses, had called me and said, Jamie, I want to show you something. I said, what do you want to show me? And he said, well, there's this place that I ate lunch, and I want to show it to you. Why do you want to show me? Well, you're the expert on women, so I want to show it to you. I still don't know what makes me an expert on women, except that I am one. But we went down to this alley, and this alley was everything that Rwanda says they're not. Rwanda has done so much development over the last 25 years since the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis. Rwanda is clean and organized, and there's so much structure to the culture. This was not that. This was a dark alley. It was loud. There was music being played. There was women that were standing outside of these alleys outside of these restaurants who were soliciting men who were walking by. It was like I was in a documentary. We ducked into one of the little restaurants nearby and sat and talked about what little we knew about the sex industry in Rwanda at that time, which was very little. And Moses said, well, I'm going to go out and solicit one of these women, and we'll just pay her to talk with her. So he goes out, gets one of these women, and says, we'll pay you the equivalent of what you would have made with a client. We just want to talk to you. We ended up paying her about $5 to talk to her. What we found out later is she made about 50 cents per client. My heart broke. Her story was collective, what we hear of a lot of the women that we work with now in Deep Hope. And they came from the village. They came from a very, very poor area. Many of them had never been to school at all, or if they had, it was very, very little. So they came into the city looking for work. Well, we were having a difficult time helping our educated English-speaking young women find jobs. How are these women who had very little or no education find work? As we continued to talk with this woman, she told us a story of coming into the city looking for work and finding work, losing jobs, not being able to find work. And she said something that I pray I never forget. She said, I had nothing left to sell but myself. At that moment, I knew we had to do something. I didn't know what this was going to look like, but we had to do something. It was the one more. So we started a program back in 2015. The three of us that had gone down, Moses, my program director, who's Rwanda, and Gabby and I, sat on this meeting of talking to this woman and trying to figure out what God was doing with that. About 3 weeks later, we're like, okay, we've got to be doing something. This is our one more moment. We met 2 more women, so we'd met 3 women at this point who were selling themselves on the street, and we invited them to a meeting. We didn't know exactly what we were inviting them to, just having them come and talk with us and get to know them. We had 26 women show up that day. Changed my life. To be able to see the desperation in these women to be forced and enslaved, of having to go down to these streets and sell themselves, it was heartbreaking. From having the opportunity to work with these women, we've worked with 32 women over the last 4 years. 11 of them consistently are working with us now as artisans, making jewelry. They're able to make things that they said, I never thought I would have any other value than what I could bring on the streets. Now they're making things, they're learning different skills. They're learning to read and write. They're learning how to parent better. They're dealing with some of their issues and deep complex trauma through counseling. There's so many layers that we want to give them freedom. We want them to be owners of their own destiny, to take charge of their lives. Now, we have this program, and God is just continuing to open doors for that. In March of this year, I had an experience that no one should experience. I was actually here in the U.S., and we got the phone call that my 20-year-old nephew had killed himself. It was one of those moments that life just kind of pauses for a minute. Once we got our minds around what had actually happened, we started going through guilt and shame. And for me personally, it was, I work in Rwanda, I reach these women, I'm taking this call of one more, but yet I missed something. I missed something within my own family. Just the guilt and shame of that. What could I have done? What did we miss? Over the next few days, we continued to start processing the grief, feeling a loss, feeling anger, feeling all these emotions in through his loss. Weeks later, continuing to feel all these things that have followed. Instead of having 2 parties, there's only one. I had a friend come to me and say, welcome to the club. It's not a good membership to have, but there's some really great people here. Suicide death, being a suicide survivor, is something I don't wish on anybody. I think I do bring a lot of pain of walking through one more. What could I have done? What did I miss that I could have done differently with my nephew? I don't know what the end of the story is going to be. I feel like we're still in the midst of it, being only 6 months in, and still learning about this. What I know from being taught one more is don't ever waste a smile, a glance, an opportunity to reach into somebody's life and love on them. Don't waste those opportunities. If God calls you to Rwanda and takes you to an alley where women are selling themselves, there's a reason. If someone is in front of you and they seem sad or depressed or down, whatever that looks like, go to them, reach out to them. That's what I've learned through this is what can we do as community to reach into lives that God puts in front of us.